Hello and welcome to Dubai Trains, and today we're going to set up the car card and waybill system from scratch. I have made before a video explaining in detail how the car card system basics work and what information goes on the cards exactly. So if you're new or need a refresher, I advise you to watch my video number 14 where I boil down the whole system to what, where, and when. There's a link on your screen right now, and there will be a link to that video after this one. So for this video, you also don't need any knowledge of my layout or experience in operating it. I will try to make this video as generic as possible. So this video is for folks who understand the very basics and who want to set up their own system or improve an existing one. So that's why we're going to talk about how to actually set up the system for your railroad. I will go through the preparations, some documents I made, and how I automated the making of the waybills, and then we're going to go on to the fun stuff, filling in the waybills. So after that unusually long intro, let's have a look at the preparations. So welcome to my layout, and I've already displayed everything that we're going to need for this video, so I can explain it better to you guys. So yes, it is a bit of a mess, but it's supposed to be like that. What are you going to need to have, want to have, buy, or get, make before we look at the car card system? Obviously, we have the waybills, and I've already distributed mine throughout the layout. We'll come back to that later. I just got these from Micromark, and you're going to need at least one per car that you have. So my layout has about 100 cars, so I bought 100 waybills. The same for the car cards. You're going to want to have, quite obviously the same amount of car cards that you have. And then we have, of course, the card boxes. This is how I had it on my old layout. I'm going to paint them to match the fascia of my layout, so you won't recognize this later, but you're going to need a few of these. We're going to look at the planning side of that in a bit. And then you're going to want to label everything. So your industries that you haven't modeled yet, you're going to want to label what that industry is, because we're going to get very specific with the waybill system. So example, you can see here, this one's not finished, but it comes from Butterfield. People need to know where Butterfield is, especially when the car goes to Butterfield, or it goes to Starrett Company, Singer Company, Turner Brass Works, Illinois Tool Works, Federal Coal, the glass chute at the Miller Brewery, the team track in the port, etc, etc. And I also made these line diagrams that are hanging around the layout for the track numbers and the different geographic locations like street names, etc. So then you also need to, if you just come down, label the street name. Another preparation step you want to have is you want to have all the cars somewhat in what I would call the starting position, if that's a thing. So I'm thinking, what is that? I think the most important is that you don't have cars floating around on arrival departure tracks or something like that. They all need to be in a locations where it's clear where they're going to or where they came from. So in this case, as you see, I have some cars on these tracks, but I know exactly where these cars are going to or coming from that are in the yard. And then it's finally time to fill everything in. But let's do some math first. I have 100 cars, more or less, so I'm going to have 100 waybills. Each waybill has 4 cycles: waybill 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's right there, 400 of these little sections that I need to fill in. And each section, if you would fill everything in, has 7 lines. So that's 2,800 lines that you would have to fill in by hand. And of course, you're not going to think that I'm actually going to write 2,800 lines. So what I came up with is to use labels to automate the making of the waybills. So as you see, I have one label for the consignee, the to, and one label for the from. So all I have to do now is stick 800 labels. That sounds like a lot, but I stick faster and neater than my handwriting. The making of these 800 labels is automated. I'll show you that in a bit. And since we're printing labels, let me just go over here because I printed quite a few, we can use a color coding system. So that is what we're seeing right here. All the 2 locations will be color coded to the different locations that I just explained earlier on my layout. So here we have the Milwaukee, the green is the Pennsy, and then this is the CNW, the orange, and then the blue is the brewery, And then what should be purple, is lavender, is the near north section. So now that we know that we need 800 labels in various colors, let's see what they should say and how I automated that. And let's look at some other documents. So onto the computer. So if you found this video useful, if you've learned something already, please don't forget to like it so other people can find this video as well. So welcome to my computer, and I'm just going to show you a few documents that I just made for myself, but it might help you with the thought process. So this slide is for the card boxes to plan that a little bit. So here you see the floor plan of my layout. That's this right here. And I just sketched in some boxes. We have a 3-box card holder and this 5-box card holder. Just the ones from Micromark. That's the ones I'm referring to. And then near north is this area right here, and I split it up into 2 areas. So we have near northeast and near northwest, and both of them I want to have a set out, a hold, and a pickup box. So that's 3 plus 3. And then I have the staging, and for the staging I want one that is for the staging track itself, track 1, there's only 1 track, and I want to have a second one for off spots. Why do I have that? Well, because if we have cars coming in from here on the right of the layout, let's say from the brewery, and they have to go to this interchange that's here in the middle, then they don't need to go all the way to the yard. So what that specific job, that train will do, is drop off spot a few cars in this near north switching area, and then continue its journey. And then later, when the dedicated job for the Milwaukee comes by, it will pick up these cars that are off spot, that are just hanging around here, waiting to be placed on the interchange track on the staging. We'll pick those up and put them in staging. So that's why I have that. So enough about off spots for now. We'll talk about that a little bit later again. Ideally, I would also want to have one empty box for empty cards or empty off-spot cards or empty other things. But like I said, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes we need. 5 plus 3 is 8. I just don't have one extra empty. So that's just a compromise from my end. And then for the yard, I just want to have enough. Basically, I could maybe make do with 8, but I'm just going to put two sets of 5, so 10. And if you just count the tracks, we're almost at 10 already. So if you take the luxury and have a box for everything you want, then you're almost at 10. And then one extra, so that extra that I wanted up here, I have that extra right here on the layout. That's okay. So that's the card boxes, and now we need to go to the waybills, the most important part, I would say. And to wrap my head around things, I just started first to list all the different variants, and there's not that many. So I made a list first of all the different industries, and then some notes, because some industries have specific sure spots. So like this Thomasville has door number 3 and a spot, so you have to spot a car specifically at door number 3, door number 5, and there's a fenced area. And don't forget, we have arrivals and departures. So these 3 variants are doubled because we have arrivals and departures. So that's what you see here. So there's 6 different possible variants that need to be listed on a waybill regarding this industry. So I basically do that for the entire layout. And as you see, there's actually not that many options. There's only 54 lines, 55 minus this one, so 54 lines. And if you take into account that everything is double, you have an arrival in a departure variant, then there's only 27 different variants really. This doesn't mean there's 27 different labels, because for example, the barge right here, the Pensy, that holds 14 cards. So although there's only 2 variants, or one actually only for arrival, because there's only one barge, you still need 14 labels for this one arrival, and then 14 labels for the departure. So that's going to be 28 labels just for the Pensy. So why did I split up this 14 and 14, not just say 1 times 28? Well, because the arrivals, remember, we're going to use the color coding. So that needs to be printed in a different color than the departure. So that's the color coding that you see in these columns as well. So the majority are going to be black and white, even these. And the arrivals are going to be, as said, in the orange, purple, yellow, blue, or green. And then another column we have is the address where the industry is. So zooming in slowly. The most broad one for routing cars is the address. That's the most important. So the color is actually linked to the address. And then once all the cars are more or less in the right location on the layout, in the right trains, heading in the right direction, then the industry is important because you need to know where to spot what. And then the note, once you arrive at that industry, the note will be important because then you need to know exactly which door, which gate, which fence, whatever. With a little side note that if you want to block your trains, the industry is also relevant when you're in the yard. So now on to the printing and a little bit how that works. I bought a printer, a label printer specifically for this, the Brother P750W. I will put a link in the description down below to exactly this printer. So let me show you a little bit how the automation works, because this is a bit of the magic, I think, of this video. So here we have the label. What you can do is you can link it to a database. So you can select a file somewhere on your computer, and then it will show right here. And this is the same file as we just discussed. And then you can link certain fields to certain areas in the file. So this top field, for example, is the consignee. So we'll just take this one. You can just drop it right on there. And then you'll see if we choose a different variant, now we're on this variant number 20. So we have the CNNW, track 3, this front track, and then we go via Division Street Yard. But if we choose another line, like line 21, you see, it flips, it automatically makes the label for you. And once you're all done and dandy, you can just press the print button. And then here you see all the labels that you need. Or you can select a specific range, because some of them, for the color coding, you only want to do the ones in blue. So you just take the ones, for example, these in blue, or just do all of them. And here's a little bit of the magic, where that's why I chose a specific machine, is you can tell the machine to half cut the labels. So you basically have one big strip, and you can peel off each label one by one, or you can tell them to cut all the labels separately, and then you just have a big pile of separate labels. And now it's time to get sticky. So what I did is I printed all the labels for one waybill cycle. We're going to do it cycle by cycle. And what's the big advantage of that? Well, I printed just enough labels for one cycle, so by default, this cycle is going to be balanced. At some point you're going to run out of a certain location, so cars have to go to another location. Or the stickers for one industry are full, so the cars will have to go to another industry. So it's going to be completely self-balancing. So the first round of stickers, you can just get your pack and just stick them on one by one. It doesn't really matter. They all need to be sticked on anyways. It's a bit of a freebie. And I decided to start with the from addresses first. So what I did is I stuck all those and then I placed them at that specific from location. So this card I'm going to put at the Railway Express Agency in your northwest. So I'm going to take this card and put this at the industry. And that's what I did over there with the staging, here and there, and on the rest of the layout. And now I'm going to take my two addresses and strategically place where the cars are going. You can't really make any mistakes here. Like I said, it's a balanced system because we printed out exactly the right amount of labels. So you can't make any mistakes, but I am going to do some thinking. So some examples of some thinking. So this is a cold storage facility, so I'm only going to let reefers come here. There's another location for reefers, and that's this warehouse over here. So some reefers are going to go to this warehouse, and so forth. So here we are again, and now we see I finished the first waybill. We already did the from, and now the consignee is also filled in everywhere and nowhere. Now here you see the color coding in action. Here we have actually all the variants. This is in this one shot. So that was cycle number 1. Relatively easy. It was a lot of fun to do. Sticking these stickers is just really easy, as you see in the B-roll footage, to get them all neatly aligned. I mean, one thing I did is this card is 55 millimeters wide, and I made the sticker 54 millimeters. So you see there's just a little leeway to stick it on nicely. Got most of them straight, maybe 3 or 4 not straight. So now I'm going to go on to the next step. I wanted to make some car cards. I didn't do that yet. I didn't feel the need to do that yet. It is, after all, more or less obvious if you read the car card what kind of car you should have. So let me find some examples. So just some examples. This one's going to the brewery and goes to the oil track to the power plant. So that needs to be a tanker. Same for that one, tanker. This is grain, so that needs to be a box car as it was back in the day for grain. And it's my layout, so I know more or less what what I mean by this and which cars should go where. I just float around to the side. There's a was drawn here, but I took the model away. There's a crane that goes right here, so I have specific ones that say something like crane. Oh, here it is. So Illinois Tool Work, near Northeast, note crane. Maybe that note should be a bit more clear. But anyways, crane, it's going to go right there. So let me continue. Let me do the waybill number 2. And this also comes to the other thing I realized is that I think almost all of my waybills are going to be 2-cycle, at least for now when I'm setting it up. I don't want to overcomplicate things. I can't do a lot of 3-4 cycles anyways. I don't have traffic within my layout. But what I could do, for example, is a coal hopper that goes here to federal coal and only loads like half of the bays to offload a certain type of coal. And then that same hopper goes here to the engine facility, to the coal loading facility right here, and then offloads the rest. That's something gimmicky I can do. I don't really, to be honest, know any other examples on the layout, so I don't want to overcomplicate it. I'm just going to use a 2-waybill system, so all the cars are just going to continuously ping from the same industry to the same interchange, back to the industry, back to the interchange, etc. Later, I can always take these exact same cards, flip them over, and fill in the back. And what I would then probably do is ping them just between 2 different interchanges and industries. So nothing complicated, but just to get some variation, so the same cars don't always go to the same location, etc., etc. But I'm not going to do that for now. It's like I said, it's new. Let's just keep it a bit simple for now. So that also means I'm already halfway done. I just need to stick these on, but the information is already there. It just needs to be there in reverse. So this next step is probably going to go quite fast. And here are all the waybills in their finished form for the entire layout. And it looks so fresh and I almost want to eat it. It looks like candy. Or it looks like a game of Monopoly. Anyways, these are all done. The car cards, I still had some from my old layout, these that are here, and a lot of them don't have car cards, as you see, so I made all these in the meantime. Nothing too fancy. Reefer, code R, URTC, that's the number, and this one's yellow. Something like that, Miller Reefer. And making these waybills was so much fun, and it really is, I've noticed, the point, especially with the waybill cycle number 1, because cycle number 2 was just the result of number 1, more or less. You define how the layout works. So let me give you an example. This track right here in the back, you're not supposed to see it, but that's staging. And some cars from the staging are going to go to this near north section. And we have an east near north that's switched by a different job than the west near north. So you get to choose how many of these cars go to the east side and how many go to the west side. And then, of course, we have, coming from there, we have trailing points, we have facing points. So how many cars from there are going to go to which side and are going to be trailed or faced? And that's important because that means you need to do a runaround or not. So do you want to make it difficult and get like from 5 cars, service 5 different industries, all facing, trailing, all mixed? From the 5 cars, you want to do 3 cars to 1 industry, just right here, just take off track and put it on that industry, very easy, and then 2 cars to another industry. These are all things to think about, and that was a lot of fun to do. I also finished these build boxes or card boxes. I don't even know what the word is, but I just wanted to show you this because it looks absolutely amazing. And as I just said, so we have near north east. I painted them in the same color as the fascia. Still need to be dusted off a bit. But then we have the basic set, hold, and pickup. We explained that earlier in the video. Here's the one where we have 2 different destinations. So I indicated that by making one long sticker. And near northwest, there's an arrow down just so you know on which side of the track west is, just to help folks out. the Milwaukee Yard. We're still going to talk about the off spot later in the video. I haven't forgotten about that. The brewery, C&W interchange. Again, the arrows, the track in the front, track in the back. So, and here is the Da Vinci Street Yard. And as I'm talking right now, you're seeing a mistake in action. These stickers are in the wrong order. That engine one should be over there. So let me just, and the caboose is good. The customer should be over there. Okay, so I just need to switch the customer in the engine. Okay, well, let me do that. And let me just show you in a second the result of that. And you'll see that you're not even going to see the mistake. That's how I really love these labels. So let me show you actually right now. And there we are back. See, customers right there. And engine right there. And why did I want that? Well, because the engine facility is right there, and the customers, it is plural, but we only actually really have one customer, and that's the furniture company. So I might as well just put here furniture company, but for now this is it. I made these cards as well. This is quite common practice. So that's just because one track, like track number 5, for example, is shared with the repair and place track. So the repair and place is, turn around, right there at the end. So for example, now there is actually a car right there because it bottomed out on the ferry, if you remember that video. Still needs to be looked after. So that car card would go here in front of the RIP, and other ones that go, for example, to the Miller, to the brewery, will go in front right here. Same with here in Near North. And if this is always going to be the same, you might as well commit and put the Miller sticker here. But I've noticed, especially with the Near North and the Milwaukee, is that sometimes you just want to flip the order because you got trains coming in for one and then leaving for the same one. So you don't want to rearrange them and put them all the way in the back just for the sake of it. So that's that. Let me fill all this in, and then let's talk about off spots. So now we have our car cards done, our waybills done, our boxes done. We need to talk about 2 more very important details to make everything work together and to solve some very practical issues in real life. First issue is off spots or off spot. There are actually 2 ways to deal with the car card system with off spots. I'll explain both of them. Way number 1 is you see here set out, hold, and pick up is to add a 4th box that is for off spots. And how you would use this, let's take this example of this 50-foot box car. It has to go right here, but for whatever reason, this spot is full. So the car is spotted off spot right there. So then you would take that card and put it in the off spot pocket and wait until this spot is available again, and then you spot it here, and then it will be loaded or unloaded or whatever. And then the car card would go from the off spot box to the set out box. But I'm not going to do that because this is a very dense urban switching layout in the 50s, and if this spot was full, then guess what? This car would go there and they would just unload it right there. So for that, I don't need a separate pocket right here, but I do need to know where that car is, because if someone, let's say this is the card, and if someone is looking for that car and expecting right there, but it's not there, they need to know that it's somewhere else. So for that, I made these off-spot labels, and it just goes in right there, and this just goes right there. So someone looking for this car knows it's off-spot and can go find and seek it somewhere on the layout. Now, I am mixing up the 2 different styles a little bit. So if I just move the camera to the right, you see I do have off-spot pocket, but this is very specific to a staging track. And why do I have that? Because this is a interchange track, this one that goes to the Milwaukee Yard. It's just off camera at Milwaukee Yard. And as I explained earlier, sometimes locals will pass by and they'll just drop the cars off here conveniently on a siding for later for the Milwaukee hustler to pick up that car. But they need to know, so that car would be in the off-spot box, and they need to know that they need to start looking for these cars because they have to go to track 1. So that's why this off-spot box is right here. So now you're saying, why don't you just use these off-spot labels for the same scenario? Well, it doesn't work because this is for the Milwaukee Yard, and there's one staging track, and at the beginning of an operation session, all the cars in here are for arrivals to the layout. And if you already have other cars that need to go onto that one track that's full with the arrivals, then it's just gonna mix up. You can't put the card anywhere because those are for the arrivals and these are for the departures, departuring from the layout. So that's why I made a separate off-spot pocket. Another important thing I want to talk about is icing, and you probably already spotted it. I made these same icing cards. So this just indicates that this car needs to go to icing, needs to be iced, in this case pre-iced, before it goes to brewery to the shipping department. And this is also, as I explained earlier, why the address is via Division Street Yard, because guess what? The icing is in Division Street Yard. So that's how I solved that problem. So let me just swing over to the yard, and these icing sticks are really needed. I already noticed while operating in the easy operation mode before I had the car system implemented, that's really difficult to keep track of which cars still need to go to icing, which are already iced, and etc. etc. So these icing sticks, again, Dave Hoosman has these as well. Thank you for this. These are really going to be a joy to work with. So as you see as well, I already put the correct waybill with the correct car. It was a bit more tricky than anticipated because some cars actually have, for example, a railway express agency marking on them. So then they should go to the railway express agency. And then of course we have our reefers and our flat cars and other more specific cars like that. So once I did that, I moved all the cars around to the correct starting location, and then I just started the op session basically. So as we made the cars for these exact locations, they were set to this location. So I had to flip the waybill from waybill 1 to waybill number 2, so they would get on their journey and the operation session would start. I just hand-picked which cars would go, which cars will be in the hold box and just hang around for a day, and which ones will go forward. That's really the joy of the car system. It's so flexible, and I already foresee there's going to be some waves of traffic. I've just been running the trains, as you see. There's one right there, the brewery run. There's one there, getting ready, waiting for the signal there to be cleared, coming from the interchange. And how do I foresee that there's going to be a wave of traffic? Well, because my yard is quite empty. And normally when a yard is empty, it means there's a lot of traffic coming your way, which is all great fun. Made possible with this car card way of operating. So thank you guys all for watching. And you'll see on the screen right now a link to that what's called primer introduction video to the car card waybill system. Bye bye.